Hello everybody, welcome in, happy Wednesday. Welcome in to Trackilicious, where we have the new season of the Wednesday Multiclass Championship starting up tonight around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. And it is looking like it'll be a big grid this evening. Multiclass action in ACC, GT3s mixing in with the GT4s. Some familiar names, some new names, some sticking with their familiar machinery, some switching up to the different class this season. And there is, of course, the format change we need to discuss for this season. One of the main changes is the race time has been extended from 50 minutes to 75 minutes, 1 hour and 15 minutes of racing. With that, the number of pit stops has increased from 1 to 2. So there are now 2 mandatory 25-second refueling times, and then the drivers can add 5 seconds to their pit stops to change on to fresh tires. And you have to complete 2 of those throughout the 75 minutes. Also, the qualifying format is one where the drivers have to set their lap throughout the week. And so up until the race server opens, the drivers can set their fast laps in that server. And then at the end of that, all of their best lap times are compiled into one big list, and that is what sets the grid tonight. So as soon as the race goes live, we will begin with our grid walk. Hello, chat. Hope you are all doing well. Lots of activity there. Lots of fans of João Barreto competing in the Rookies Championship as well here as the Multiclass. Welcome in, Brazil, and thank you, Doc Milby, for your continued support. Welcome to the podium. For 26 months you've been on there. And that is how it goes this evening. Hope you are all doing well midway through the week so far. And we are beginning with some great racing here in the Multiclass. The rookies started off well, LMU yesterday. Cheers, Beachley, for the hydrate. Get some green tea in early on. And yes, it is looking like it will be a slightly damp start as well. Yeah, it's like it's a kind of a weird transition period there. And certainly we'll mix things up at the beginning. There is that little bit of a time as well between when this session closes and the race server starts, so maybe just a little bit of time for things to dry up. But of course, with that long race going on, anything can happen with the unpredictable weather as well. And a fun fact requested from Myonex. Let's start with going through the history of all the layout changes at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It first opened in 1989, and that layout remained the same up until 1994, when they remodeled the kind of back straight section between turn 9 and 10, and then it was remodeled once again in 2004, where the turn 10 was tightened, which is the same version that ACC uses here. And so after that, in 2007, it was deemed that the final corner was too fast, so they added the chicane. And that is pretty much the same layout that has remained the same up until 2021, where they went back to the original turn 10 layout, where it was slightly more open, and then the chicane got removed as well in favor of the fast sweeping penultimate corner. And the race server is going. We can take a look at how the grid starts this evening at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, beginning with the GT4s. And we will get to those livery deep dives I promise you that. Hello everybody, welcome in. Here is the start of the new multi-class season, and this is how the GT4 grid stacks up. A familiar face in the GT4 field, Justin Beachley starts from pole position in the number 18 Beach GT AMG. Behind him, an all-familiar friend and foe, Neil Kerbel, with a new livery this season in the Nova Hex Racing 395 McLaren, alongside Justin Beachley on the front row. Alongside him, the McLaren of Potts Weaver. He's back in the number 13 Potts Auto Sport, lining up from third place. Alongside him, the free wheels are spinning on the Aston Martin of Alex Freeman in the 22 AF Sport, starting from fourth place. Next, you have the sister Aston Martin of Andres Mostachero in the 105 Academy Motorsports, starting from the third row. Alongside him, Joe Chericola in the number 9 Camaro, starting from sixth. Then you have Diego Mostachero in the Naps team, number 48 Aston Martin, starting from 7th. And it's an all Aston Martin fourth row with Dr. Porkchop in the 71 Chop Shop Racing alongside him. Next, you have the chat favorite Joao Pedro Barreto in the Mangue Racing number 6 AMG. He starts from 9th place. Alongside him, Gabriel Frere in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge number 27. Starting from 11th place in the GT4s, you have Professor Chronotis in the T-Swizzalicious number 42 AMG. Alongside him, Marion Sathsara in the NM Racing Team 31 Janetta. Then you have Pak K Kwan in the number 10 McLaren, starting from 13th place. And Brian DeSantiago concludes the GT4 grid on track in the 777 NPG Racing BMW. And on to the GT3s. It's Lightning McQueen, it's Kevin Yu in the number 95 Rusty's Ferrari, starting from pole position, looking to carry on the momentum from last season. Then you got Tony Gold switching to the BMW this season in the Coach Dave Academy number 91, starting alongside the Ferrari on the front row. In third, Sam Zawisha in the ZMS 52 Ferrari, starting from third. Alongside him on the second row is Jim Reynolds in the 313 BJ Racing McLaren. From fifth is the Ferrari of Mario Augusto Mariano in the 45, the Fair Play Race, starting from the top 5. Alongside him, fellow BJ Racing driver Brian Zerline this season in the number 25 Mustang. From 7th place starts Mateus Madeiros in the Land Team number 96 McLaren. Oh, what goodness, what happened there? Did I skip one? He must have been in 6th and Brian in 7th. My apologies, went out of order there. Eric Vanderbilt then of Richard Randy Racing in the number 7 Nissan, starting from 8th place. Next is Rally Dutchy in the 621 Mad Fox Sim Racing BMW, starting from 9th. Parker Standret rounds out the top 10 in the FAF Motorsports Lamborghini. Just outside the top 10 in 11th is Lily Yoshimi in the VTubers with Disabilities number 79 McLaren. In 12th, Soji Sakata of Sakata Racing Division number 44 Mustang, starting from 12th place. Then you have Hezzy Thomas in the Dogbox Racing Ferrari, the number 59, starting from 15th. From 14th is Matt Ogilvy in the 75 BMW in the Team WRT McDonald's livery. Last but not least of the GT3s, Ilpo Rutzelainen switching from the GT4s this season. He will be in the Castrol Toms 404 Lexus. Two drivers starting from the pits, Devin Anthony in the 664 NRU as the rain begins to start back up again. And Andres Mostachero starting from the pits in the GT4s. So the grid gets set right before the start of the race. 75 minutes. The rain beginning to come down. A little bit light now. Track is greasy. Should get heavier though as time progresses. Will it dry up towards the end? Who will be able to keep it out on track cleanly for the start? Lots to look forward to in the new season. And who will finish where? The number 10 getting a drive-through for being out of position at the start. Kevin Yu looks like getting swamped here by Tony Gold as he uses the BMW power to go through around the outside, and it's a challenge on the brakes. He thought about turning in, but Kevin Yu posing a threat there, but Tony Gold gets the position and moves up to the lead of the race. Behind it is looking nice and steady. Neil Kerbel taking the lead of the GT4 field. Justin Beachley falling back to second place as he looks like he is going to be under pressure from Alex Freeman, moving up from fourth to second place in the first sector here. Might allow a move up the inside though, as there is a car slipping in front. That's the McLaren of Yoshimi, I believe. But Justin Beachley through on the inside as there's contact between the GT3 and the GT4. That was one of the Mustangs. Brian DeSantiago getting caught up in the mix as well, as there are cars all over the road here in the middle of the second sector trying to get themselves back and sorted. Tony Gold falling back from the lead of the race. He has dropped to fourth place, giving Kevin Yu the lead once again. And that is a move from Jim Reynolds to take second place away from Sam Zawisa in the 52 Ferrari, now in third. There has been chaos all up and down the grid. GT4s getting involved with GT3s early on, getting caught out of position, and cars, Kevin Yu going into the pits, looking to get the tire change. More drivers coming in, some deciding to stay out, maybe some already on the wet tires as the track changes to damp conditions. The pit lane certainly be getting a lot more active now. Chat favorite Joao Barreto elects to stay out on track, perhaps already having the wet tires on his number 6 AMG, and there we see the pit lane absolutely loaded full of activity, as after just one lap of racing, so much changes to the grid order. There's so many changes to the grid order, I should say. And the 41, that's Dandrette getting a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which he will have to serve before the end of the race. So Barreto here trying to chase down Dr. Porkchop in front. That's Devin Anthony behind him. That's technically for position on track, but the Honda, being in the GT3 class, should have no problems overtaking the GT4 AMG here. But Joao Pedro in a good position after the start, able to avoid the chaos, and it looks like he is fourth in class at the moment. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens once all the drivers serve their pit stops as well. Ilpo Ruotsalainen looking to make up ground in the 404 Lexus. He is on the tail of Rally Dutchy, who runs wide at turn 10. That might allow Ilpo to slip on through, but that's a dangerous part of the track to overtake, especially in the wet. So Ilpo just trying to hang on to the back of the BMW, the main straight being one of the best overtaking opportunities, and in fact the 404 elects to dive into the pits instead here. Alex Freeman now chasing Joao Pedro Barreto after getting involved in that earlier incident, seeing himself getting spun by a GT3 car, now catching up to the tail end of the GT4 pack. Yes, Sarah, there's a Lexus. Ilpo is representing the Lexis this season in the 404. So Jim Reynolds in the lead of the race, pretty comfortably so as well. There's a big gap to Brian Zerline, right around 10 seconds. Of course, a lot of the GT3 field has come in for a pit stop. With the grid in the pits getting shuffled up, Jim Reynolds staying out on track and getting those clean laps in with no spray out in front of him. The rain continuing to increase, track conditions changing to wet. This is Sakata racing with Hezi Thomas, the 44 Mustang on the tail of the 59 Ferrari. In the 395, Neil Kerbel, he was in the lead of the GT4s, gets a penalty for speeding in the pits, as does Tony Gold. And Sakata unable to find a way through Hezi Thomas, going into the heavy braking zone at turn 10 and drifting through the corner, but keeping the position for the meantime, but opening up the inside for the Mustang to slip through, and Devin Anthony applying the power a little bit too aggressively, sees the Honda spin around there in the wets and getting back on to the race here. Still maintaining a good position inside the top 10 though. Sorry to hear, Sarah. Always exciting to watch you race on track. The double Lexus battle last season between you and Neil was super fun to watch. So hopefully Ilpo can carry the strength of the Lexus here as he begins to work his way through the GT4 field after coming in for one of the two mandatory pit stops. Just up the road from the Lexus, Diego Mostachero looking to make up a position on Professor Chronotis down the inside of turn 11. He sneaks on through before the hairpin of 12 and gets track position and moves ahead of the 42 AMG. The 91 Tony Gold, just a reminder for him to serve his mandatory stop-go 30 penalty, with Parker Standret clearing his drive-through, and that's Neil Kerbel facing the wrong way, exiting the chicane. Getting the car spun around and into the pit lane goes Neil, serving that stop-go 30. Tight battles going on here between the GT4s as Ilpo begins to catch up to this three-car battle, with Diego Mostachero being the lead car after just taking the position from Professor Chronotis, as that is Joe Chericola in the tennis ball colored Camaro, looking to try and catch up to this battle and perhaps get involved and take some positions from the GT4 cars out in front. So after the pit stops, Alex Freeman is still behind João Pedro Barreto, maintaining his position ahead of the 22 Aston Martin, as these two begin to catch up to the back end of Dr. Porkchop. So this two-car battle will soon turn into a three-car battle, as there is the light blue car of Dr. Porkchop appearing pretty close now to João Pedro. Let's ride on board with the number 6 AMG. Lots of spray getting kicked off the tires from the Aston Martin in front, and it's a tricky position to be in here, in a bit of an Aston Martin sandwich, if you will, having to attack the car in front and defend the car behind at the same time. We'll see how Barreto handles this. With just 10 minutes gone by in the race, so much has happened. This is what the back end of his car is seeing with the Nissan approaching. It's going to be Eric Vanderbilt passing this battle on the straight, but the view we want is ahead, and Dr. Porkchop pulling out a pretty big lead on that straightaway in the Aston Martin compared to the number 6. This is your race leader, Brian Zerline, in the number 25 Mustang, catching up to this battling pack of GT4s. Maintains the lead over Rally Dutchie by about 7 seconds. Still hasn't served any of the mandatory pit stops, so we'll have to wait and see exactly where the top 5 in the grid will stack up once they come into the pits. And with some cars taking pit stops earlier and others, this was really mixed up the GT3 and the GT4 field. Oh, and apologies, we did not do a livery deep dive on one of the rookies' cars. And what better rookie to view than our friend of the chat, João Pedro Barreto, who in fact is trying to get that position on Dr. Porkchop, but in the process might be losing it to Alex Freeman here. So still continuing this battle in that beautiful purple livery. And here come the Aston Martins, trying to pull out a gap if you're Dr. Porkchop, trying to get closer if you're Alex Freeman, and he is getting a lot closer. It looks like here, will he be able to line up a move into turn 1? He's thinking about it, getting out of the spray, and just looking a little bit big in the mirrors, but not quite close enough to pull off the move just yet. Oh, and Barreto with a bit of a slide there, opening up the inside of turn 3. Alex Freeman trying to find the grip through the inside, and they're going to battle side by side into turn 4, the famous corner where the two F1 Mercedes had an incident, but no such incident here as Alex Freeman goes cleanly through on the inside, and now looking to chase down Dr. Porkchop in front. Was a good defense thrown up by Barreto indeed, but Alex Freeman charging quickly in the Aston Martin, looking to make up the positions after the contact earlier on in the race. Right on board with Kevin Yu, as requested by Sarah, starting here, exiting turn 4 and approaching turn 5, slippery down the hill. Bit of camber helping the driver through the corner, but on the exit that is not such a case, and then it's a quick flick left into turn 7, trying to keep it within track limits on the apex of turn 8, and turn 9 is a very fast corner in the dry, a little bit slower in the wet, can't quite carry as much speed through there. But Kevin Yu managing it just fine in the 95 Ferrari. Then a big braking zone coming up at turn 10. And into turn 11 he goes. Not a lot of curb in the wet. You don't want to unsettle the car through the tight hairpin at turn 12. And then it's a 90-degree corner at turn 13. A dab of the brakes, down a gear. Don't want to take too much curb. There's a big sausage protecting the inside, as is the case here at the chicane at turn 14 and 15. And then the final corner, a big sweeper to the right-hand side, opening up to the 1 kilometer straight to end and start the lap here, as Kevin Yu does a 153.8 on that go-around. And going into turn 1, we'll ride with him up until the end of sector 1. Very heavy braking zone, but still a very quick chicane to start the lap. Taking it in second gear in the wet, and then a long right-hand corner. Very, very aggressive on the tires on the left-hand side. And then turn 4, a tight hairpin, but lots of room for side-by-side action. And into turn 5, anything is possible as the orientation of the track changes from the outside to the inside, and that's your full onboard lap with Kevin Yu. What's up with the grid? Well, there was a little bit of contact earlier on at lap 1, and then some drivers electing to come in for an early pit stop because the rain came down very heavily at the start, so I had a sneaking suspicion some drivers starting on the dries had to go onto the wets right away. And that is what really has mixed up the GT3s with the GT4 field. And as you can see, still some drivers have yet to take a single pit stop as well. Still plenty to play for. As Tony Gold works his way through the GT4s, his next target is Eric Vanderbilt in the number 7 Nissan, about 1.5 seconds up the road. The race leader for a few laps, Jim Reynolds, finds himself behind Zawisa in the number 52 Ferrari. He is getting pretty close, though. Correct, we did that one earlier on. Oh, I see, you want someone else to redeem a fun fact. Jim Reynolds having to cut through turn 2, though. Can't keep the grip. Exiting turn 1 and having to go through and cut across the track in his efforts to chase down Zawisa in the 52 in front. Well, how about that? There's a fun fact. Eric's got a fun fact. Let her rip. As Jim Reynolds and Sam Zawisa work through, Andres Mostachero yet to complete a single pit stop. He is the leader of the GT4s, sitting inside the top 10 overall as well. Devin Anthony, after starting from the pits, finds himself inside the top 3 overall, still yet to complete a mandatory pit stop, recently getting through Sakata on the previous lap. The 44 Mustang sitting in 4th. Kevin Yu being the leader of the GT3s, those who have served one mandatory pit stop. Well, here's your fun fact. Eric Vanderbilt is one of the 2 original creators of the Trackilicious server. In the good old days, used to be known as the JAE Racing. How about that? Here is Eric Vanderbilt, trying to keep with Tony Gold after the 91 BMW getting through on the previous lap here. But it's always good to see a Nissan on the grid as well. Trackilicious still cooking. We try our best, that is for dang sure. Dr. Porkchop trying to fight through Barreto here with Kevin Yu working through the pair of them. And he does go through. Barreto runs a little bit wide at turn 10. Can't keep the grip on track. And the 71 Aston of Dr. Porkchop goes through. Brian DeSantiago in for his first of 2 mandatory pit stops, as is Hezzy Thomas. Almost a little bit of contact there, it looked like, between the AMG and the Aston Martin, who continue to battle and have done so since their pit stops. Now behind, I believe that is the Ferrari. One of the GT3 Ferraris working their way through this pair of GT4s here. As Dr. Porkchop forced to the outside, Barreto trying to find the grip to battle and go along side by side into the braking zone at turn 4, but I just don't think he's quite close enough to pull that move off just yet. As Tony Gold and Eric Vanderbilt have caught up to Lily Yoshimi in this 3-car GT3 battle. As Yoshimi drifts a little bit wide, this might open up the door for Tony Gold. A little bit of contact as Yoshimi turns into the corner. And unfortunately, coming off worse for wear is the McLaren, spinning off on the wet surface. As Tony Gold and Eric Vanderbilt both gain positions on the McLaren there. I agree, Sarah. That was very unlucky. That it just seemed like it just started spinning and there was just no stopping it with how slippery the track is at the moment. Luckily, in 30 minutes, we should see a decrease in the rain. Who's leading in the GT3s? Currently, it's Brian Zerline. He is in the lead of the GT3s. However, he has not done a single of the 2 mandatory pit stops. The lead of those who has done a mandatory pit stop is Kevin Yu, who has now gone through Devin Anthony up into 2nd place. Rally Dutchy did have that position, but it looks like Rally Dutchy here falling to 4th. Couldn't quite see what happened there. Kevin is cooking indeed. I believe he started from pole position as well. So showing that he has the pace in the dry conditions as well. So yeah, super hard to predict. Oh goodness, Rally Dutchy spinning. What happened here? Oh, and there was big contact into the wall. I was taking a look at the timing charts as always, something interesting happens when you look away. And unfortunately for Rally Dutchy, they're spinning on the exit of turn 9, a very quick right-hand corner. Just couldn't catch it and goes into the wall on the inside part of the track. That will certainly be a visit to the pits here from the BMW, the first of the 2 mandatory trips down the pit lane. Hello, Mari. Hope you're doing well. Welcome in. Barreto continuing the chase of Dr. Porkchop down the main straight, separated by about a second still. not giving up the position easily, as there is the Janetta of Sethsara getting back onto the track after a visit to the pit lane. What's happening? It's hard to explain what's happening. Just about everything is happening. It started dry. The rain came just about when the formation lap started. Some drivers coming into the pits on the first lap, so that really mixed up the GT3s with the GT4s. Some drivers continuing to hold it out in these conditions on the tires that they started with here Brian Zerline catching up to Justin Beachley, the second place sitter in the GT4 class, having completed one mandatory pit stop. He's chasing Andres Mostachero, who has the lead of the GT4s, but still yet to complete a single of the two mandatory pit stops. Oh, and unfortunately, Rally Dutchy getting a speeding in the pit lane penalty, which he will have to serve within 3 laps' time. Parker Standret falling victim to one of those penalties earlier on, currently in 21st overall, catching up to the back of Lily Yoshimi after experiencing that spin earlier on. Looking to defend the position from the 41 Lamborghini here. Defending it well through the chicane. Can Lily keep the grip through the final corner? Drifting a little bit wide onto the gravel. That'll really slow the momentum of the McLaren down as the Lamborghini of Parker Standret works through and gets inside the top 20. Lily is not giving it up easy, though. Oh, and there's contact between the McLaren and the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini, fortunately, to get caught by the gravel trap before the wall there, not suffering any damage there. And that is Hezzy Thomas working through the pair of them to get the position inside the top 20. Oh, and he runs wide, but able to catch the drift, though. Parker Standret now leads the trio in the Lamborghini ahead of the Ferrari, who tries the deep move down the inside. More contact between the McLaren and the Lamborghini, and more side-by-side contact as they go down the hill, exiting turn 6. This trio really battling hard for the positions inside the top 20. And these are all 4 positions in class. Hezzy Thomas going to the outside, and Parker Standret trying to take the position through the apex as the Ferrari just turns in there. And unfortunately there, once again in the wet, the Ferrari just spinning and cannot catch itself quickly. Trio continuing to battle here. So much going on here. Take a look back at the battle between Dr. Porkchop, João Pedro Barreto, and now Potts Weaver within touching distance of Dr. Porkchop. He's about a second up the road, now about a second and a half, I think, with Dr. Porkchop having to let the GT3 car go through there. But soon enough, he will catch up to the back of Potts Weaver in the 13 McLaren, both of them on the same number of pit stops. So this is a straight up battle between the GT4s. And just a little bit ahead of these two, another two-car battle in the GT4s between Alex Freeman and Joe Chericola, again on the same number of pit stops. So this is a straight-up battle out on track. Alex Freeman starting inside the top 5, looking to get back into those positions, and he gained a lot of time there through the chicane. Can he keep the speed over the Camaro down the main straight? It'll be tricky to do with the BMW approaching as well. Not a lot of speed difference between the GT3s and the GT4s, especially in these wet conditions. As the BMW goes through the inside of Joe Chericola, Alex Freeman trying to sneak through and get that position as well, but just unable to do so. With just under 45 minutes left in the race, that's a McLaren drifting wide. I believe, not sure which McLaren that was. That might have been Gabriel Frere in the number 27. Alex Freeman still can't find a way by, though. Sticking onto the back of the Camaro in front. And right as we say, he keeps a lot of momentum through turn 9, forcing the Camaro down the inside into the braking zone at turn 10. Can he sneak his way through? The Camaro goes deep, and the over-under move is done for Alex Freeman. He slots ahead of the Camaro and gets himself into 4th place in the GT4s. Now, can Alex Freeman pull the gap away? He's got 15 seconds to the next car in front. That's Professor Chronotis occupying the final podium position in the GT4s. I believe he started from 11th place in class, and he is currently sitting all the way up in a podium position and 13th overall, too. Ilpo in the pits. He will be one of the few drivers completing the 2 mandatory pit stops. So for him, it is just a 40-ish minute sprint to the end. I believe he pit from 6th place overall. So it'll be interesting to see exactly where this puts him. And already so many different strategy calls. Some drivers completing 2 pit stops already, some 1, some completing none. As one of those yet to serve 1 pit stop is finally in for his first, just about halfway into the race. That driver being Andres Mostachero in the lead of the GT4s, now in the pits. And exactly where will he come out, as he is held stationary while the crew refuels the car, potentially puts new tires on as well. In a pretty active pit lane there. Justin Beachley and Professor Chronotis go through. Will Alex Freeman go through, as him and Jim Reynolds are having an argument at the final corner? Alex Freeman does go through, as does Joe Chericola, so that means Alex Freeman moves up to that final podium position. Justin Beachley gets the lead of the race. Professor Chronotis in 2nd now. Joe Chericola in 4th, and then Andres Mostachero sitting in 5th, just a few seconds behind Joe Chericola in the number 9 Camaro. Dr. Porkchop on the back of Potts Weaver, drifting through turn 3, trying to find any little bit of grip he can to keep the speed, to fight Dr. Porkchop and keep the Aston Martin behind. Yeah, the wet can certainly be a challenge, especially if the wrong setup gets loaded. A dry setup in the rain, certainly a challenge. So sorry to hear that, Lily. Through that middle sector, though, the McLaren looks pretty strong, able to pull out pretty decent advantage over the cars behind. Brian Zerline in for his first pit stop. He comes out in 6th place behind Medeiros, ahead of Ilpo Ruotsalainen, who stays pretty much in the position that he pitted from, now in 7th place, but he can go all the way to the end. That gives Kevin Yu the lead of the GT3s back in the number 95 Rust-eze Ferrari. He has about a 7-second gap over Devin Anthony, but Devin still has the 2 pit stops to clear. The 79 getting a drive-through for track limits. Yeah, that sounds about right, Sarah. The pit lane, not the shortest, not the longest. And then, of course, up to the drivers to decide their strategy, whether they want to add 5 seconds and take new tires or stick to just the 25-second refueling time. So Kevin Yu remains in the lead, has a good gap over Mariano. Currently sits in 3rd, but will take 2nd once Devin Anthony completes at least one of those mandatory pit stops. Diego Mostachero and Brian DeSantiago battling in the GT4s here for 22nd and 23rd. Lily Yoshimi drifting wide onto the grass, but keeping the car under control, interrupting this battle between Diego and Brian. And once again, there's a BMW getting in the mix as well. That's Ogilvy trying to keep the BMW under control, squirreling all over the track under the brakes. Lily Yoshimi deep into turn 10, and Diego Mostachero still behind the BMW of Brian DeSantiago. Indeed, Devin hasn't pitted yet. He started from the pits, but that doesn't count as one of the pit stops. And right as we say it, Sarah, look who's in pit lane. But anyway, back to this battle. Diego trying to stick a nose up the inside. Lily Yoshimi going wide onto the gravel here. The BMW of Brian DeSantiago looking to keep that position over the Aston Martin, as Diego just can't keep up with the pace of that BMW in a straight. Parker Standret leaving the pit lane there as Lily Yoshimi tries to go down the inside, interrupting the battle momentarily between the Aston and the BMW GT4. And drifting wide, not helping his chances of catching Brian DeSantiago, as now Jim Reynolds works his way through in the 313 McLaren. Currently sits in third place in the GT3s. It's about a 30-second gap to Mario Augusto Mariano, who now takes second place, with Devin Anthony coming into the pits for his first mandatory pit stop. He comes out in sixth place, about 10 seconds behind the top five and about 30 seconds ahead of Ilpo Ruotsalainen, who started from the back of the GT3 grid. Now the battle back on between the Aston Martin and the BMW, catching back up. Potsweaver and Dr. Porkchop in the pits at the same time, so it's a battle between the pit crews here, between those GT4 cars, as there's a battle on track here. Diego has the grip out of the chicane, forces his way through the inside. Brian DeSantiago can't keep the speed around the outside, and he is forced to tuck back in behind down the main straight. But now can he use the BMW power and work his way through? Into turn one they go. The BMW just a little bit too far behind to try and make a move there, as Diego Mostachero gets that position exiting the chicane. Oh, and Neil Kerbel with a drive-through for track limits. That's a second penalty he's received in this game. Or in this race, I should say. Andres Mostachero able to get through on Joe Chericola here, and he did it at the chicane, the same as his brother there in the number 44. So that is now a top three position for Andres, as he is forced to defend down the main straight, with the Camaro charging quickly, looking to fight that position back, but just unable to do so into the braking zone at turn one. Mostachero hangs on to that position. And of course, as we cut to the live shot here, maintains the position ahead of the number 9. After his visit to the pits, Dr. Porkchop about a second and a half behind Brian DeSantiago, who still needs to complete that mandatory, or at least that one mandatory pit stop to go for him in the 777. So that will clear Dr. Porkchop to try and catch up to the 48 of Diego Mostachero, who just made the move on the previous lap at this corner. And Dr. Porkchop looking to fight his way through quickly so he can get some clean air and get to the back of that 48. Brian DeSantiago goes deep into turn one, giving Dr. Porkchop the easy pass through turn 2 and 3. So now he can have a clear fight up ahead with Diego Mostachero. "30 minutes to go in round number 1 around Catalunya." Kevin Yu maintains the lead over Mariano. Or excuse me, not Mariano. He maintains the lead over Jim Reynolds. What happened to Mariano there? I don't see him in the standings at all. He's in a comfortable second place there. This is PC only. Mr. Busta T16. In the lead of the GT4s is Justin Beachley, sitting just outside the top 10 overall, and he has a good gap to Alex Freeman, sitting in second place in the number 22 Aston Martin. The gap is about 29 seconds between the lead AMG and the second place Aston Martin. Then you have Andres Mostachero in third place in the GT4s, Joe Chericola in fourth, Joao Pedro Barreto in the top 5 of the GT4s, but those top 5 still yet to complete one of the mandatory pit stops. The leader of those who have completed both mandatory pit stops is Professor Chronotis, catching up to Joao Pedro here down the main straight. And behind Professor Chronotis, you have Potts Weaver, then Diego Mostachero and Dr. Porkchop looking to start their battle here in the closing 30 minutes of the race. And through goes Professor Chronotis down the inside of turn 4. The Mustang GT3 trying to go through as well. But no way by just yet. For the Mustang. Mariano is back. He's stationary though in the pits still, after returning to the server. Good to see the commitment from the 45 Ferrari continuing on in the race, despite the technical issues. Mateus Medeiros getting close to Brian Zerline in this battle for the final podium position of the GT3s. The stewards ruined your race indeed, Neil. That's just how it goes sometimes. Oh, Brian Zerline so deep at turn 10. giving the position to Mateus Medeiros as the pair of them try to go through Lily Yoshimi. Yeah, understandable. It is pretty wet out there. In 10 minutes, though, it's going to get pretty light, and in 30 minutes, it's going to dry up completely. But that will be after the checkered flag waves. So we won't have any dry running towards the end of the race here. As Medeiros goes through on the inside of turn 1, Brian Zerline going through as well. And these two will continue their battle for that final podium position here. Gaps opening up between the GT4s here, as this is the view from the 25 Mustang. Trying to look through the spray, trying to keep within a second of the McLaren in front and stay close and fight back for that position and finish on the podium. Nice and easy on the throttle there through turn 13. And it's much the same story through a lot of the slow corners here. Tony Gold in the pits for his final pit stop from 5th place, I believe, in the 91 BMW. And Medeiros dives into pit lane as well for his final mandatory pit stop with just under 23 minutes remaining. Ilpo crossing the line now. He does get through Medeiros in the pits. So this might just be a top 5 or even podium finish for Ilpo Ruotsalainen come the checkered flag. Jim Reynolds having the fastest lap of the race, completed it earlier on when the wet conditions weren't so wet. It started on a greasy track and evolved within a few laps to damp and then to wet. And that is the condition that we have stayed at since the first opening, or the first few laps of the contest. Mariano with a huge move down the inside of 2 cars at turn 12. Or turn 11, excuse me. After he suffered a technical issue, seeing him out of the server, he is back and inside the top 20. Still about half of the grid needing to complete a mandatory pit stop before the end of the race. Lily Yoshimi off the track there at turn 3. Ilpo is in a good position here. To potentially sneak a podium finish after starting from last place in the GT3s. He's currently 6 seconds behind Devin Anthony, who needs to complete a pit stop. And Brian Zerline is about 25 seconds up the road, which he will certainly be stationary for at minimum while the crew get the fuel in the car. Sakata in the pits for the final trip to the pit lane. Same with Brian DeSantiago in the 777 BMW. Kevin Yu having a nearly minute lead over second place as Devin Anthony goes in the pits, giving fourth place to Ilpo Ruotsalainen. Chat favorite João Pedro Barreto in the pits as well for his final visit. Oh no, a bit of damage to the front end of that Mercedes as well. Hopefully not too heavy, so that the pit stop time doesn't take too long there. As he is unfortunately sitting for a good amount of time there, stationary in the pits, but the damage does get fixed. Maintains a position inside the top 20 as he looks to chase down Diego Mostachero in the number 48 Aston Martin. Sitting just outside the top 20, I should say, 21st. Unfortunately there, yeah, long pit stop, about 30 seconds longer than usual for JP Barreto. Continuing on in the race. About 9th in class. So a good showing from Barreto here. Beachley in the pit for his final service. Same with Jim Reynolds and Brian Zerline, giving Ilpo Ruotsalainen second place in the GT3s. Jim Reynolds back out on track in third as he just exits the pit lane there. Where will Brian Zerline come out? Looks like he should be pretty comfortably in fourth place here. Medeiros is the next car behind, just going through the final corner now. So a decent advantage here for Zerline in the last 16 minutes of the race. With Beachley and Mostachero in the pits, Alex Freeman now has the lead of the GT4s, but he of course still has that mandatory pit stop to complete as well. So he will have to serve one pit stop in the closing 15 minutes of the race, as will Kevin Yu, but he has a good advantage over Ilpo Ruotsalainen behind. You can see the 404 just going through turn 2 now. So Kevin Yu has nearly a lap over the Lexus in second place to be able to come into the pits and comfortably serve that mandatory pit stop. Kevin Yu just having to slice his way through a bit of GT4s and GT3s up ahead. That's Tony Gold in the 91 BMW in 7th place overall. Might get up to 6th with Eric Vanderbilt having to complete one more mandatory pit stop in the number 7 Nissan. Thanks for the raid, Lily. Sorry your race didn't go the way you had hoped, but good to see you fight there out on track. Much appreciate the raid. And now just a handful of drivers left to serve their 25-second refueling time pit stops, as the battles here in the closing stages really opening up. Just trying to cruise their way to the end here and take the checkered flag. Devin Anthony side by side with the GT4 race leader, Alex Freeman. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out, though, after he serves his mandatory pit stop. Justin Beachley will most likely inherit the lead, but where will he come out relative to Professor Chronotis, Andres Mostachero, who currently sit in that 3rd and 4th place in the GT4s? Then you've got Chericola not too far behind either, with Potts Weaver and Dr. Porkchop further down in the GT4s. Wet weather certainly making it interesting. Yeah, oh my goodness, yeah, the rain's gonna stop right after the checkered flag, pretty much. It probably won't dry up in time for the drivers to have to come back onto the dries. And Kevin Yu now in the pits for his final trip down the pit lane. The 2 leaders of the classes in the pits, Alex Freeman following Kevin Yu into the pits as well in his GT4 Aston Martin. I agree, Sarah. If only it stopped about 5 minutes earlier. That would have been quite epic stuff to catch to the end there. So Kevin Yu is done and serviced and comfortably remains out in the lead after 33 laps of driving. We'll have about 5 laps to go before we see the checkered flag of round number 1. And Alex Freeman is out of the pit lane, and Professor Chronotis just up the road there. There's the 42 going through turn 1. So Alex Freeman will remain on the podium in the number 22. Eric Vanderbilt into the pits. Indeed, Sarah Alexis will finish on the podium, as it looks like for the time being, and Ilpo actually taking the fastest lap of the race just a few laps ago in the 4:04. No, Vanderbilt getting a stop go 30 for speeding in the pits. After dropping a few places to 9th, he might drop a few more. Hopefully we'll stay inside the top 10 though. As Justin Beachley retakes the lead of the GT4s after Alex Freeman taking a trip to the pits on the previous lap. He has about 5 seconds to catch up to Professor Chronotis for that battle for 3rd and 2nd in the GT4s. Seven minutes to go in round number 1. What will happen if someone does not have a valid lap in the quali server? They start from the pit lane? No, they just start from the back of the grid. They don't have to start from the pit lane. Devin Anthony trying to close down the gap to the 44 Mustang of Sakata. Let's finish in 7th place. A bit of an oversteer moment from the Mustang, allowing the Honda to slip closer and closer as Devin Anthony looks to slip through the inside, and he gets the position through turn 6, and down the hill they go. Honda ahead of the Ford. Mariano in the pits as well for his final trip at 50 kilometers an hour down the Barcelona pit lane, with Eric Vanderbilt serving his stop go 30 there, and the number 6 gets a drive-through. That's Barreto. He's gonna pick up a drive-through for track limits. at the end of the race here. What has happened to Barreto here? He is in the wall, exiting the final corner. As he returns back to the pits. And not sure what happened there for JP Barreto, but he is back in the pits, still in the pit lane. As Alex Freeman and Hezzy Thomas continue to battle for technical track position, even though this is a battle between the GT3s and the GT4s. Mariano working his way through after just completing his final pit stop up into 17th. It's good to see the commitment, him sticking around after that issue earlier on. No, the wheel broke. No, JP. No, that's so unlucky. Hopefully it's a quick fix. We're able to see you back out on track soon. Oh my goodness, 40 minutes without force feedback, jeez. That's got to be quite treacherous, especially in these rainy conditions. It was impressive you were able to battle for how long you did. With Kevin Yu having 2 laps remaining on his race. Looking to take it to the checkered flag cleanly here. Getting through the BMW of Matt Ogilvy. Yeah, stuff like that happens. It's racing. Unfortunately, that's kind of the best sort of comparison we have to mechanical troubles as sim racers to real life racers. It's unfortunate that happened, but you certainly won the chat's hearts this evening. Despite the technical issues, you have the support from the chat and all of us here. Diego Mostachero with Brian DeSantiago in front.
The window is now closed.
However, Brian DeSantiago is down a lap. Dr. Porkchop is not. So the 2 Aston Martins continuing to battle for position. As this will determine who will finish 7th and who will finish 8th in the GT4 class. Kevin Yu on his final lap of the race. From the race lead, Brian DeSantiago with a slight spin entering the chicane. And Dr. Porkchop just has one main straight left to defend from Diego Mostachero. charging quickly in the 48 Aston, with the rain stopping in the final minutes of the race, but the track not drying up quickly enough to add more dramas here. The two Aston GT4s continuing to battle in the closing lap of the race. Cheers for the hydrate, Lily. Always need it in exciting moments like this. And into turn 4, Diego Mosachero can't sneak the inside of the Aston Martin into the corner. Yes, I think Neil left already. In the 395 after getting in some trouble with the stewards. Dr. Porkchop sliding through turn 6 and 7. Diego Mosachero tries to line up the move through the inside with Ilpo Ruotsalainen looming close behind in the GT3, not wanting to get involved in this GT4 car battle, just trying to work his way through both cars down this main straight, and wisely just pulling out here and just letting them continue their battle. But here we have Kevin Yu rounding the final corner and taking the first win of the season in his number 95 Ferrari. Back to the battle here between the GT4s. Diego Mosachero trying to find the grip through the final sector. Just 3 corners left into the chicane. Dr. Porkchop leads, and he will maintain that position through the chicane. Just needs to keep the grip through the final corner, and he will see the checkered flag ahead of Diego Mosachero. Great battle between these two Aston Martins to close the race here, with Ilpo Ruotsalainen across the line in second place after starting from the back of the GT3 field. Justin Beachley started from pole, took some early pit stops, and got the lead back. He takes the first win of the season in the GT4s in the 18 Beach GT AMG. Jim Reynolds next across the line to take a podium position in the GT3s in his 313 BJ Racing. Alex Freeman rounds out the GT4 podium in the 22 Aston Martin. Professor Chronotis in second place in the 42 T Swizzalicious AMG on the GT4 side of things. Brian Zerline across the line in fourth, with Medeiros going through the chicane to finish inside the top 5. Tony Gold finishing 6th, Devin Anthony 7th, Sakata 8th, Ogilvy 9th. And we will get a big rundown at the end when we see the grid. Good to see Potts Weaver back on the grid. The number 13 McLaren across the line, 18th overall, and he will be the last to take the checkered flag. So Kevin Yu on top of the GT3s, then Ilpo Ruotsalainen, then Jim Reynolds, Brian Zerline 4th, Mateus Medeiros 5th, Tony Gold in 6th, Devin Anthony 7th, Soji Sakata 8th, Matt Ogilvy 9th. Then in 10th in the GT3s, you have Eric Vanderbilt 11th, Mario Augusto Mariano, and then Lily Yoshimi, those who have finished. Thank you for the follow. And Justin Beachley finishing in first in the GT4s. Professor Chronotis second. And Alex Freeman rounds out the podium. Couldn't quite glance at those final standings at the end there. But that is round number 1 completed on track. We will head back to the studios. Top 3, please join us for a quick interview of how your race went on. And if they're feeling a little shy tonight, that is just fine as well. An hour and 15 minutes of wet racing, certainly a lot to take in. And that's how it goes. Here we have the GT4 winner, Justin Beachley, joining us. Welcome in, Justin. Congrats on the race win. Hello?
Oops, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, happens.
Thank you. Yeah, that was quite a race. We weren't expecting those conditions at all, so that was fun.
Yeah, it certainly didn't seem like a lot of the practice was done in the wet, and then the server opened up, dry, and then wet, and then dry again, and then wet right as the green flag kind of waved. And did you guys end up starting on the dries or the wets there?
I started on dry tires. Saw the 10-minute to wet, and I was like, well, maybe. And of course, it starts raining at the end of the formation lap, or in the middle of the first lap. But yeah, the wet tires optimal message came up right before I got to the pits, so that was a pretty easy, it's a pretty easy call to make, especially with everybody spinning out in front of me. So I was already going kind of slow. And it was just an easy call to go into the pits and change the wets, and got a cheap pit stop out of the way too. So that was, I think, turned out pretty well, especially with Chrono staying out an extra lap on dries. It was kind of the gap at the end there.
Yeah, Chrono.
Yeah, that was the whole race. That mistake was like our gap at the finish.
Yeah, that's just how it happens. And Alex Freeman finishing on the podium. He got caught up in that incident at lap 1, but a good fight back from you, finishing out on the podium, overtaking cars all throughout the whole hour and 15 minutes and finishing in third there.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, not sure. I haven't looked at the replay yet, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But yeah, I was. Funny enough, the one practice session I had on the race server happened to be a wet session, so I was feeling pretty good once I saw the race was going to be wet. So.
Yeah, well, the practice paid off.
Oh yeah. Funny enough, I actually I pitted on lap 2 because I figured I'd do an extra lap just to let the pits clear out a little bit, and stayed on those tires the rest of the race. And
nice.
My fastest lap was with 3 minutes to go. So.
Yeah, it seemed like it kind of dried up at the end there. Not enough to. I was kind of hoping the rain would stop a little bit earlier and maybe throw in a little bit of dry running at the end there. But unfortunately, it's kind of stopped right at the last lap there, so not a really lot of time for it to dry out.
Yeah, it did. I was hoping it was going to switch, or I was hoping it was going to stop raining a little bit early. That way I could maybe throw on some dries and just go all out at the end and see what positions I could make up. But no, it's still a fun race.
Yeah, it was a good one. And Jim, joining us from the GT3s, your race seemed pretty good at the beginning there. You got the race lead. And then after the pit stop phases, just had to fight back through some traffic, but ended up on the podium there still.
Yeah, a lot of traffic. I started on dries and went a little bit longer, went one lap longer than I probably should have. Didn't pit till lap 4, and to change to the wets, and that probably cost me. But did a pretty long second stint, and it was just the opposite. I was hoping it would keep raining till the end because I didn't change tires in the second stop. And
yeah, just the differing strategies were super fun to keep track of, with some cars coming in super early and other cars waiting to up until late. Yep. I think Ilpo cleared both of his pit stops before some drivers went in for their first pit stop.
No kidding.
Wow. Yeah, so there was a lot of different strategy calls all throughout the grid tonight. So very mixed up grid.
Gambling on it continuing to rain.
Yeah, certainly. I think his final stop was right around the 45-minute mark.
Wow.
Well, yeah, fun race to watch. Fun race to watch from the booth. I'm sure it was a lot more stressful from behind the cockpit of the cars, but you guys made it look easy out there, working your way through the traffic and getting the overtakes done, and we're really looking forward to what the season brings.
I hope, so am I. I really hope I didn't... GT4 traffic was challenging. Hope I didn't anger anybody. Just misjudged my braking points a few times and kind of cut in front of a few GT4s, and I don't think I caused anybody any issues, but it may not have seemed very nice to them. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah, and the rain
just a
too.
miss.
There wasn't really a huge pace gap between the GT3s and the GT4s. I think the lap times were right around 10 seconds apart. And so there really wasn't a whole lot of speed difference in a lot of parts of the tracks.
The biggest challenge, especially in the first half of the race or so, was visibility. There was so much spray, you couldn't see cars in front of you. And that was the biggest challenge. And you didn't know, okay, I know there's a GT3 car in front of me and a GT4. I don't know which is which.
You have no idea where it is, huh?
Wing.
Yep. So it was kind of a guess, which it was fun. Not that I didn't hit anybody. I'm just glad I didn't hit anyone. Should be a fun season. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It looks like a super tight grid, and based on those qualifying times too, it was pretty tight all the way up and down. So looking forward
in
to
both classes.
all the yes, exactly. Yeah, we need to have you in the broadcast booth here, Jim. You're doing great.
Right.
No, please. That was a compliment. That was not a complaint. I love all the insight from your guys' perspective, and it's one thing to watch it from the outside, but hearing from what happens on the inside is a whole other thing. So thank you guys as always for joining us for a quick chat at the end. And yeah, like we said, congrats on the podium finishes, and really looking forward to what the next, I guess now 7 races brings ahead of us. So good luck to you guys in the rest of the season.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you guys next week indeed. Hopefully we'll chat with you as well next week. And that concludes round 1 for the Wednesday Multiclass Championship. First race with the new format. And it seemed to go pretty well this evening, especially with those wet conditions. Looks like next week we will have a more dry race around Laguna Seca. And lots to look forward to in between then and now as well, with a plethora of new seasons getting announced for the start of 2026. On Mondays, we have our GT4 rookies in ACC starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On Tuesdays, we go to LMU for the GT3 Sprint Championship 40-minute races starting at 8:30 Eastern Time. Then here on Wednesdays, we got the GT3s and the GT4s starting at 9:30 Eastern for their 75-minute multi-class races. On Thursdays, we go to iRacing to continue the same format at 8:30 Eastern with the GT3 and the GT4 championships. Fridays, we're back to LMU for the Hypercar and GT3 Mixed Championship starting at 8:30 Eastern on Fridays. No race on Saturdays, but on Sundays, we have the iRacing MX5 Championship at 8:30 Eastern Time. Signups for all of those championships are open on SimGrid. Get yourself signed up, join the Discord, keep up to date with all of the latest news and information regarding all of the races that Trackilicious hosts. Lots of fun stuff coming up as well, I believe. Some fun things in the works. So yeah, lots to look forward to as we will get a raid set up here. Of fellow sim racer Mikhail Shoemaker doing some iRacing. Spread the love from one sim racing community to another. Join us tomorrow for iRacing and all the other days for those championships. Happy to have you here at Trackilicious. Thank you all for watching along. Thank you for participating in the championships as well. We couldn't do it without all of you guys and all of the admins, managers, stewards doing all their hard work in the background to keep everything afloat. So have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be tuning in from. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.